Please excuse any background noise right here because there is a fly in the studio and it's passed the microphone a couple of times. So chances are you've heard it at some point. Anyway, back to the review. But we're on to DVD 14 on the Laurel and Hardy box set. This is a collection of short films under the title of A Job to Do. So it's the same with all the DVDs on this box set. You know, they'll have, most of them will have a feature and related shorts, but this one here is all like, you know, handyman sort of things. And the first one on this is Busybodies. This is absolutely fantastic. It's from just want to check this again to be sure, 1933, and Stan and Ollie play a couple of woodworkers heading to work in the morning. Things is going good for them for a change, and they're happy and they're contented, and they're driving along in their Model T Ford, and Oliver says to Stanley, let's just put the radio on, listen to some music on the way to work. And you see a shot of the dashboard with a little hole cut in it. There's a piece of string through the hole with a nail on the end of it, and Stanley gives us a little pull. The music comes on, and knew exactly where this was going as soon as I seen that. The song plays, finishes. Oliver pulls the Model T over. Stanley gets out, opens the engine compartment, and of course inside it there's a old record player, and there the string is attached to it to drop the needle down to start the record. So Stanley resets everything, gets back into the car, gives the string a little pull, the music comes on, they continue their way to work. Once they get there, it's just a string of one moment funnier than the last. They get to work. Oliver pulls up at the workshop. There's a guy gathering up wood, and Oliver has turned the engine of the car off, and he comes freewheeling in, and the guy doesn't see him, and Ollie blasts the horn behind the guy, and like he drops everything he's trying to carry, and he swears revenge on the two of them, and of course this comes back to bite them in the butt later on when while Oliver is trying to work on a window frame that's jammed. He gets Stanley to help him, and Stanley gets the two windows to close up and down, and of course Oliver gets his hands trapped in the top and bottom of this window frame. And the carry on of trying to get Oliver released from this window, Stanley is standing on top of the workbench, Oliver's in below him, and he's trying to yank this window open, and the guy that they scared with the horn in the car earlier on comes walking through just as Stanley falls off the table onto the top of Oliver. Oliver falls on the top of this guy, which results in a bit of a fist fight between the three of them. And at one point Stanley swings a punch at the guy, misses him, and ends up hitting Oliver instead. And the guy's like, Stanley, you're actually alright, I like you, you've got an honest face and whatnot. And Stanley was like, thank you very much, would you like a cigar? He yanks a cigar out of his boiler suit, hands it to the guy. Guy sits down, lights up, and this whole time Oliver standing like, Stanley's mind mate, why is he palling up with this guy all of a sudden? So while the guy is sitting smoking a cigar, Stanley whistles for the supervisor, points to the no smoking sign, and the guy gets trailed out of the workshop by the supervisor, and again screaming revenge. I'll see the two of you guys after work. So Oliver, Stanley get back into their day's work. Stanley's like planing a piece of wood, and Oliver leans across the workbench to get something while Stanley isn't looking. Stanley turns back around, he goes to plane the bit of wood again, just straight over the top of Oliver's rear end. Of course, planes a chunk out of the back of Oliver's trousers. Oliver retaliates, and probably one of my favourite parts of any Laurel and Hardy film, with a handsaw, which he, grabs hold of the handle and he pulls it back and wheels Stanley over the top of the head with it. Now, I know props, sound effects could make this work, but that looked like a real saw, sounded like a real saw. if they had replaced sound there to cover up the fact that it was a prop, they did a damn good job on it. But Stanley again retaliates with a brush and some glue, and stuffs it into Oliver's chin, pushes him across the room. Oliver falls into the wall, and like just everything falls on top of him. But Stanley, being the kind-hearted soul that he is, wants to make amends as soon as he can. So he goes, gets Oliver lifted up, gets him sat down, and tries to get the brush off Oliver's face by putting it into a vice, yanking Oliver's head up. But all he manages to do is yank the handle off the brush, but he still has this mad beard sort of thing with the bristles of the brush still there. Please excuse any background noise right here, because there is a fly in the studio and it's past the microphone a couple of times, so chances are you've heard it at some point. Anyway, back to the review. Sorry, I'm completely spoiling this one for you, but it is absolutely fantastic. Oliver still has his bristles of the brush stuck to his chin. Stanley gets him sat down in a chair, gets a towel wrapped around his shoulders and neck like he's at a barber shop, and gets a hose. It's connected to the sink, turns it on, goes over, wets down the bristles, and gets some hand cream and rubs it into Oliver's face. Takes a wood plane to him and shaves the stuff off him. And when he's done with that, you think, okay, this is starting to go their way now. Maybe everything's going to settle down. But the hose that Stanley used to wet down Oliver's chin earlier on, Oliver is still holding this hose, even though at this point it's turned off. Stanley is over to wash his hands, presumably turns the tap on again, full blast. Oliver gets the blast of the water in the face, loses his head, jumps up off the chair, and he gives the hose a yank, pulls the whole sink unit right out of the wall. It flies across the room, hits him in the head, knocks him into the strap thing that's going up and down on the side of the room, which is part of the extractor system, I want to say. So he falls over into that there, grabs hold of the strap, and gets yanked up to the ceiling. Next thing, he comes back down from the ceiling, straight through the floor, into the extractor system, and it's one of the funniest sequences of seeing him getting sucked around the pipes of this system. And when he gets to the end of the system, it's about 20 to 30 feet probably in the air. All the sawdust and stuff that's been extracted from the factory is getting blown out into the yard, into a waste area just across from the main office. And Oliver comes out the end of this pipe, but he's too fat to fit through it, so he's trapped at the end of this pipe 30 feet in the air. Stanley, of course, has ran out to see what's happened to him, and he gets a ladder and he climbs up to him, and he's got Oliver's hat with him, hands it to him. Oliver puts it in his head. This is just, I should be running the image behind me or something, because this is just a commentary of the entire short film. But don't let this ruin it for you. It's well worth watching. So at this point, Oliver and Stanley both are up at 30 feet in the air, and this ladder, maybe not 30 feet, but it's not far off, at 25 anyway. Inside the factory, there's a guy carrying a few drums of shellac, and he's carrying one. He's got one on his shoulder, and he's got one on the floor that he's pushing along with his foot, and doesn't see the hole. The shellac falls into that like a torpedo. It goes around the system, hits Oliver in the butt, releases him from the pipe, and of course Stanley's in the ladder in front of this hole. Oliver comes out, the two of them on the ladder, over they go, straight into the office, and just complete devastation. Of course the boss, supervisor, the main man, he's in there, and Oliver and Stanley run for it and jump into the Model T. Off they go through the workshop to try and escape in the car, and end up actually driving through a giant saw and just actually sawing the entire car in half. Absolutely brilliant little sequence. And one that was done so well, and something that I genuinely believe that in today's movies would not be done the way it was done in this film, because it was an actual real saw going through the car. You know, the car, in all fairness, was probably already split in two before they shot this, but at the end of the day they did run a real saw right through the middle of a Model T Ford, in between Stan and Ollie on either side of this thing. Like, you know, if there had been, you know, if anything had happened there and went wrong, somebody's going to get badly hurt. But basically this is where the film finishes it off. Stanley looks at the wreckage in the Model T Ford and sees the string from earlier on for the record player, gives it a little pull. The record player still works. So that's it for this review, and probably far too much detail for you, but this is an epic little film, Busybodies. If you haven't seen this one before, you're definitely losing out. This is only my second time watching it, and I absolutely love it. And I recognise it's been quite a few years since I actually watched the movies, but I do recognise a few names that are coming up in this DVD. So over the next week to 2 weeks we're going to get through the last of this disc, and yes, please come back for more.